Welcome to Study Hall, everyone. It's Philosophy Friday. And you know what that means? It's time for a deep dive.
That's right.
And today we're diving deep, deep into the world of Alan Watts.
I'm so excited for this one.
Me too. This guy, he had a way of taking these huge, complex Eastern philosophy ideas
Right.
and making them,
Understandable.
yeah, like crystal clear, you know?
Exactly.
So today, we're going to tackle, I think, some of the big ones. We've got becoming what you are. We've got to figure that one out. The whole non-striving thing. And then, of course, the mystery of the eternal now.
It's going to be like piecing together this philosophical puzzle.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Where every concept, it's like it reveals another piece of what it means to live like this truly awakened life.
Okay, so let's just jump right into it.
Ah.
Let's start with this become what you are thing.
Okay.
It sounds like a paradox.
I guess.
How can you become something that you already are?
Right.
It's like telling someone to go to where you already are.
Yeah. What does that even mean?
Well, Watts, he uses this paradox to kind of like poke at our human habit, right? Of chasing after this like idealized future self. So you can think about it like this. You spend like years dreaming about becoming this successful entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
And you sacrifice so much present joy for this future vision of yourself.
Right.
But what if the key to feeling fulfilled isn't becoming someone different?
Okay.
What if it's just accepting who you already are?
So instead of like constantly reaching for that carrot on the stick,
Exactly, yeah.
we should be content with where we are right now.
Well, it's not necessarily about being content.
Right.
It's more about understanding, right?
Okay.
That true change, true growth, it begins with self-acceptance. It's you can imagine like a gardener, right?
Right.
They're trying to force a rose to bloom by like constantly pulling at its petals.
Right.
That rose is going to wilt under that pressure.
Yeah. But if the gardener, like they provide the right conditions,
Yeah.
sunlight, water, the right kind of nourishment, that rose, it's going to blossom naturally.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
You can't like force growth. You create the right conditions.
Right.
And you let it kind of do its thing.
Exactly.
So how does this becoming what you are, right?
Yeah.
How does this tie into the eternal now?
So Watts, he believed that life, it only exists in the present moment, right?
Okay.
So the past, that's just a memory.
Right.
And the future is just like a projection.
Right.
But the present moment, like that's the only reality we ever actually get to experience.
Yeah.
And this eternal now.
Yeah.
That's where we find like our authentic selves.
I see it.
It's kind of like when you're completely engrossed in a book, right?
Yeah.
You lose track of time, your worries, you even lose yourself.
Yeah.
And you're just like fully absorbed in that present experience of the story.
Wow. That's a really good analogy. And it reminds me of how frustrating it is to like, when you try too hard to concentrate while you're reading,
Oh, yeah.
the more you like force yourself to focus,
Right.
the more distracted you actually become. It's like you have to kind of surrender to the experience of reading to really let those words sink in.
Exactly. Watts would say, by striving less and accepting more,
Yeah.
we can actually achieve more.
Interest.
And this kind of leads us perfectly into the concept of wu wei,
Okay, wait.
the art of non-striving.
Ron's driving. Okay.
And
cool.
it's not about being like lazy or passive.
Right.
It's about aligning your actions with the natural flow of life. Kind of like water finding its course.
So, I mean, how can we accomplish anything if we're not like actively striving for it? I mean, I feel like our whole society is like built on goals,
Right.
achievements.
Think about like a really skilled surfer, right? Riding a wave, they don't fight against the power of the ocean.
Right.
They work with it.
Yeah.
They harness its energy
Right.
to create this effortless ride.
Hmm.
So wu wei, it's about finding that same sense of harmony in life.
Right.
That sweet spot where action, it becomes effortless and effective.
So instead of trying to control every outcome,
Right.
we should just trust the process.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Ride the wave, Go with the flow.
Okay. I'm starting to get it.
Could.
So this also kind of connects back to the becoming what you are idea.
Yeah, they're very closely related. They both emphasize this idea of acceptance, right?
Okay.
Of the present reality, not forcing outcomes. When we
Right.
try to constantly control things,
Mm.
make them fit into these like preconceived notions we have,
Yeah.
we create like internal conflict,
So
right?
it's like trying to like hold water in a clenched fist.
Ooh, I like that.
You squeeze tighter and tighter, but it keeps slipping through your fingers.
Exactly,
The
yeah.
harder you try to control it, the more you actually lose.
That's a great image. You know, Watts, he used to describe this feeling of like internal struggle, right?
Yeah.
As being all balled up.
All balled up. Okay.
Yeah, it's that like that sense of self-strangulation that you get when you're trying to like dominate your inner self with willpower.
Oh, so how do we untie this knot?
Right.
How do we move from this place of struggle to a place of like harmony and flow?
Well, one path that Watts suggests, right, is to explore the nature of reality itself.
Okay, we're getting deep now.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
To ask these big questions like, you know, what are we
Right.
and what is this world that we live in?
All right, so we're diving into the mysteries of the universe now.
We are. Hold on tight, because Watts, drawing on wisdom from, you know, these Eastern traditions like Zen Buddhism and Hinduism, he believed that ultimate reality, it's something that like we can't fully grasp with language or even like intellectual concepts.
So he's saying that like our brains can't even just like fully comprehend it.
Yeah, he saw religions and philosophies not as like literal descriptions of reality,
Okay.
but more like as pointers, as tools to direct our attention to something that lies beyond the realm of the mind.
That's fascinating. But if it's beyond our grasp, then how can we ever even hope to understand it?
All right.
It's like trying to like explain the taste of chocolate to someone who's never ever tasted it before.
Yeah.
You can describe it with words, but the real experience, it's beyond description.
You got it. Watts, he actually used this brilliant analogy to illustrate this point.
Okay.
He compared these, you know, religious doctrines and
Yeah.
philosophies
Okay.
to a finger pointing at the moon.
Okay.
Right. So the finger, that's like the teachings.
Right.
Right. And it's meant to direct your attention toward the moon, which is like ultimate reality.
Oh, okay. I see. So we get so fixated on the finger, the teaching,
Right. Exactly.
that we forget to even look at the moon.
Right.
The
Yeah.
actual reality. Yeah.
Exactly. We get so caught up in like arguing about doctrines and dogmas, you know,
Right.
that we miss the point entirely.
Right.
And Watts, he argued that this fixation that we have on concepts,
Yeah.
on trying to define and categorize reality, it actually prevents us from experiencing it directly.
So it's like studying the map meticulously, but never actually going on the journey.
A perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And you know, for Watts, the true journey, the real experience of reality, it's found in the eternal now,
Right.
in the present moment,
Okay.
where life unfolds.
So to truly become what you are
Yeah.
and experience this eternal now,
Yeah.
we need to let go of all those like frameworks in our minds
Exactly.
and just embrace the present moment.
The present moment, just as it is, yeah.
Just as it is.
That's a big part of it. But, you know, there's another piece of the puzzle that's even more mind-boggling.
Oh, okay, hit me.
It's this concept of self-renunciation. And this one, it might seem to contradict our natural desire for self-improvement.
Now you've got me really curious. How can we reconcile this whole self-renunciation thing with our like drive to grow and evolve?
Well, you know, Watts, he's always the master of paradox. He saw self-renunciation not as like a literal instruction, but as a skillful means
Skillful means.
to uncover a deeper truth about the nature of the self.
Okay, so what is this? What truth is this skillful means supposed to reveal?
Well, he believed that when we sincerely try to renounce the self,
Yeah.
we actually stumble upon this really profound and often humbling realization. It's actually impossible. Like the
Yeah.
very act of trying to renounce the self,
Yeah.
it ends up reinforcing the ego.
So it's like a snake trying to swallow its own tail.
Yeah.
The more it tries to consume itself,
Right.
the more it just reinforces its own existence.
Exactly. You got it. You know, it's like if you're trying really hard to not think about a pink elephant,
Right.
what
A
happens?
pink elephant pops into my head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The more you fight it, the stronger it becomes. And it's the same with the self, right?
Yeah.
You see, the path to self-discovery, it isn't about forcefully getting rid of the ego.
Right. Okay.
It's more about understanding its nature,
Yeah.
understanding its limitations, you know,
Okay.
its role in the grand scheme of things.
But we need to understand the ego, not eradicate it.
Precisely. And Watts, he argued that this humiliating discovery, as he called it,
Okay.
it can actually be like incredibly liberating.
Wow.
You know, it undermines the ego's illusion of control,
Okay.
and it helps us recognize, you know, the interconnected nature of reality.
Dude's getting really deep,
I know, right?
but it's definitely making me think differently
Good.
about myself
That's the goal.
and the world around me.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, so wow.
And that's just the beginning. Watt's exploration of self-enunciation, it goes even deeper. You know,
Right.
he draws on, you know, Zen analogies
Okay.
and thought experiments
All right.
to illustrate this paradox of the self
Right.
and the path to true liberation.
Hold on, folks. We're going to pause here for a moment. But don't go anywhere, because we're going to be right back to continue this deep dive into the mind of Alan Watts.
You know what really strikes me about Watts's philosophy?
What's that?
How relevant it is to our lives, like today.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we're constantly bombarded with these messages about self-improvement
Right.
and achievement, the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
It's like we're all on this treadmill, you
Right.
know, always striving, always reaching
Always more. Yeah.
for something more, something better,
Yeah.
but never quite reaching the finish line.
It's exhausting. Yeah. And you're right. It's like this relentless pursuit of some like elusive future self, always thinking, I'll be happy when.
Right. And Watts, he saw this as a recipe for dissatisfaction, even suffering.
Right. Because you're never actually present.
Exactly. You're never fully there.
Yeah.
You know, he believed that this constant striving, this attachment to outcomes, it prevents us from experiencing the fullness of life in the present moment.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes total sense.
Think about it. You know, it's like you're on this scenic road trip, right?
Okay.
And you spend the entire time staring at the GPS
Yeah.
instead of enjoying the view. You might reach your destination, but did you really experience the journey?
Right. Or it's like trying to read a book, but you're also planning dinner in your head and worrying about deadlines.
Right.
Your mind's so cluttered, you can't even enjoy the story.
Exactly. And it's no wonder we feel stressed and overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Right. We're constantly juggling all these thoughts, desires, anxieties. So how do we break free from this cycle of striving and dissatisfaction?
Right. Yeah. How do we cultivate that way?
Yeah, that effortless action and presence.
Yeah. It's like you almost have to stop trying to force yourself to relax.
Right.
Because the more you try to force it, the more tense you become.
Exactly. It's not about forcing relaxation, but about becoming aware of the patterns of striving in our minds, right? Like
Yeah.
notice when you're caught up in chasing outcomes,
Yeah.
and gently guide yourself back to the present moment.
Right.
You know, it's like noticing that you're holding your breath,
Right.
and then consciously reminding yourself to exhale.
So simple, but so powerful.
Right.
So are there like any practical techniques that you can use to cultivate this awareness?
Oh, absolutely. You know, practices like meditation,
Okay.
yoga, or even spending time in nature.
Right.
These can work wonders, right? They help us shift from our busy minds
Yeah.
into our bodies, you know, into the sensory experience of the present moment.
It's about getting out of your head.
Yeah.
And into your senses.
Exactly.
Smelling the flowers, feeling the breeze on your skin.
Yeah.
Really being present in your body.
Precisely. And the more you practice this,
Yeah.
the more natural it becomes. You know, you start to see the world differently, less as a collection of objects to be manipulated and controlled,
Right.
and more as a unified field of experience, like this flowing tapestry of interconnectedness.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that brings us back to Watts's ideas about, the nature of reality, this concept of non-duality,
Right.
the interconnectedness of all things.
Yeah.
That's a big one in Eastern philosophy, isn't it?
It is. And Watts, you know, he believed that this understanding,
Yeah.
this intuitive grasp of non-duality,
Yeah.
it was essential for living a truly awakened life.
Okay.
It challenges this illusion of separation, the belief that we are fundamentally separate from the world around us.
Yeah, and it's that belief in our separateness
Right.
that fuels our striving,
Right. Exactly.
our desire to control, manipulate things,
Mm.
to bend the world to our will,
Yeah.
because we feel like we need to protect ourselves.
Right.
Build walls.
Build walls, defenses.
Defenses. Keep
Oh,
the
yeah.
outside world from harming us.
Exactly. And that creates a sense of isolation,
Yeah.
loneliness.
Loneliness, even though we're surrounded by...
Even though we're surrounded by billions of other beings who are all a part of this same
interconnected web of life, yeah.
interconnected web. You got it.
It's like we're all individual threads, but we've forgotten that we're woven together
I love that.
into a single magnificent tapestry.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
Watts believed that the more we recognize this interconnectedness,
Yeah.
the more compassionate and loving we become.
Because we start to see ourselves in others. And others in ourselves.
Mm.
We realize that harming another is ultimately harming ourselves.
Exactly, exactly. But I understand, this can be a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, it is for sure.
How do we even begin to wrap our minds around these concepts?
Right.
Let alone integrate them into our daily lives.
Right. It's a lot to take in. So do you have any suggestions for someone who's new to all this?
Yeah. I think, remember Watts's analogy of the finger pointing at the moon?
Okay.
These religious doctrines, these philosophies, they're just tools. They're not reality itself.
Okay.
Right? So don't get bogged down in the intellectual details.
Yeah.
Focus more on the experience.
It's feeling, yeah.
The feeling, yeah, of interconnectedness that these ideas are pointing toward.
Yeah.
And that experience, that can be cultivated through those practices that we were discussing earlier.
Okay.
The meditation, the mindfulness,
Right.
spending time in nature. Right. These activities, they help quiet the mind.
Oh,
They
yeah.
open our hearts and they connect us with the present moment.
And as we do that, we begin to see the world differently.
Yeah.
Less as a collection of these separate objects.
Right.
And more as this unified field of experience.
Precisely. And that shift in perspective,
Yeah.
that realization of non-duality,
Right.
that can be incredibly liberating.
Yeah.
It frees us from the tyranny of the ego,
Right.
from the constant striving and seeking that keeps us from experiencing the fullness of life.
It's like finally taking off a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
It's been pinching your feet for years.
Right.
You can suddenly walk with ease and comfort.
A perfect analogy. It allows us to embrace the mystery,
Yeah.
the wonder of existence, right? To see the divine in the ordinary, the eternal in the temporal.
Yeah. What I find really interesting about Watts
What's that?
is his emphasis on the importance of play.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
He saw play as this essential aspect of human nature.
Right.
A way of connecting with our innate creativity and spontaneity.
It's like we've become so serious,
Right.
so focused on productivity and achievement
Yeah.
that we've forgotten how to simply enjoy being alive.
Yeah, and that's where the wu wei comes back in.
It does, yeah.
The art of non-striving is also the art of play.
Right.
Allowing ourselves to be guided by intuition,
Yeah.
inspiration, to follow our curiosity and delight.
It's like remembering how to be a child again.
Yeah.
See the world with these fresh eyes,
Yeah.
full of wonder and possibility.
Right, exactly. And Watts, he believed that this childlike sense of play, it was essential.
It was.
Their spiritual growth and enlightenment. It allows us to let go of our rigid beliefs
Right.
and expectations.
Yeah.
To open ourselves to new experiences.
Embrace the unknown.
Yeah, embrace the unknown. And that openness, that willingness to embrace the unknown, that's what allows us to truly become what we are.
Yes.
To experience the fullness of life in the eternal now.
You got it. And that's what I find so inspiring about Watts's philosophy,
Yeah.
It's not about following a set of rules or doctrines.
Right.
It's about awakening to the inherent wonder and beauty of existence.
Yeah.
Right here, right now.
It's like uncovering a hidden treasure
Yeah.
that's been buried within us all along.
It has. And Watts, he's like this wise and playful guide,
Yeah, he is.
He points us in the right direction.
He does.
He encourages us to let go of our striving,
Yeah.
to embrace the present moment, and to discover the infinite within the finite.
This has been an incredibly illuminating conversation.
It has.
I feel like I'm starting to see the world in a whole new light.
Good. I'm glad.
But we still have much more to uncover about Alan Watts. All right, so we've covered some really interesting stuff today. We've talked about becoming what you are, the eternal now, and how everything is interconnected.
Right, and we even touched upon this whole idea of self-renunciation as a skillful means, right? And how our language, our concepts, they have limitations.
Yeah.
When it comes to truly understanding ultimate reality.
It's a lot, but I feel like we're starting to put the pieces together.
Yeah, it's like weaving a tapestry,
Right.
Each of these concepts, they intertwine, with the others.
Yeah.
To create this this rich and complex understanding of how to live a more awakened and fulfilling life.
But how do we take all of this like really heady wisdom
Right.
and actually apply it?
Yeah.
It's easy to get lost in the abstract ideas, but how do we make it concrete? How do we make it real?
Well, Watts would say the answer is right here.
Okay.
In the present moment.
Okay.
In the eternal now. It's not about striving for some future state of enlightenment.
Right.
It's about bringing awareness and presence to everything that you do.
Okay.
Even the most like mundane tasks.
So it's not like what you do.
Right.
It's how you do it.
Precisely. Whether you're, washing the dishes,
Right.
walking the dog,
Yeah.
having a conversation, right?
Okay.
The key is to bring your full attention to the experience, to savor those sensations, appreciate the simple act of being alive.
It's like that Zen saying, when chopping wood, chop wood. When carrying water, carry water.
Yes, exactly. It's
Yeah.
about bringing that same level of focus and intention to everything that you do.
But how do you actually do that? Our minds are so busy, so cluttered
Right.
with like thoughts, distractions. How do you actually like quiet the inner chatter and connect with the present moment?
It takes practice. And
Okay.
it's not about silencing the mind completely. It's about noticing when your thoughts are pulling you away from the present
Okay.
and gently guiding yourself back. It's like noticing a tense muscle
Right.
and consciously relaxing it.
So it's about developing like a mental discipline,
Mm-hmm.
like a capacity to direct your attention
Exactly.
where you want it to go.
Yeah, precisely. And that mindfulness, it allows you to experience the eternal now.
Right.
To tap into that wellspring of creativity and joy that's within you.
Because when you're fully present,
Yeah.
you're not caught up in the past, you're not worried about the future.
Right.
You're simply here
Yes.
now, experiencing life as it unfolds.
And that's where the magic happens. That's where you discover the interconnectedness of reality,
Mhm.
the beauty in the ordinary,
Right.
the divine spark within yourself and all beings.
Right. One of the things I find really liberating about Watts is that his philosophy, it's not about following like rigid rules or dogmas.
No. He encouraged us to think for ourselves.
Yeah.
To question our assumptions.
Right.
And to find our own unique path.
And he did it with such humor and grace.
Yeah.
Making these complex ideas, feel accessible and engaging.
He was a master communicator.
Yeah.
And his teachings, they still resonate with people today because they offer this timeless wisdom,
Right.
It transcends cultural boundaries and it speaks to the heart of the human experience.
So we've explored some really, really key concepts in Alan Watts's philosophy.
They have.
From becoming what you are
Mm-hmm.
to wu-wei
Yeah.
and the eternal now.
Yes,
And we even touched upon that idea of self-enunciation
we did.
as a skillful means.
Yeah.
And the importance of recognizing the limits of language.
Right.
When we try to grasp ultimate reality.
It's a tricky thing.
It is. It's been a wild ride. I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive.
I have. It's always rewarding to revisit his work.
Right.
And to rediscover these profound insights.
And for those of you who want to learn more, we've included some great resources in the show notes.
Yes, there's a whole world of wisdom out there just waiting to be explored.
So dive deep. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles.
It begins with a single step.
And that step, as Watts would remind us, is always taken in the eternal now.
Until next time, keep seeking
Keep questioning,
and keep playing.
and may your lives be filled with wonder, joy, and the effortless grace of wu-wei.